Stop caring what people think does not mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop handing over the remote control of your life to voices that do not understand your journey. From the moment we are born, society begins to teach us how to fit in, how to look acceptable, how to sound right, how to behave normally. Slowly, without realizing it, we begin to measure our worth through the eyes of others. And that is where our freedom starts to shrink. Education teaches us facts, but life teaches us something deeper. Self-worth cannot be outsourced. When you depend on people's opinions to feel valuable, you live like a rented house. Anyone can ask you to leave. But when your worth comes from within, you become your own home. People will talk whether you rise or remain silent, whether you succeed or fail. Their opinions change faster than the weather, but your life stays with you every single day. Many of us carry labels given by others: not good enough, too weak, too different, too ambitious, or too quiet. These labels are not truths. They are reflections of other people's fears and limitations. An educational truth we must understand is this: opinions are shaped by experience, bias, and insecurity. When someone judges you, they are not reading your full story. They're reacting to a single page, sometimes without understanding the language. Pain can be a powerful teacher if we allow it to educate us instead of break us. Life will test you in ways you never planned for, and people will form opinions without knowing your battles. What matters is not how loudly they speak, but how clearly you listen to yourself. Resilience is not about proving people wrong. It is about proving yourself right. It is about waking up every day and choosing courage even when fear is louder. Stopping the need for approval is a skill, and like all skills, it can be learned. Start by asking yourself, am I doing this because it aligns with my values, or because I want applause? Growth begins the day you choose purpose over popularity. Education is not only about degrees and certificates. It is about learning how to think independently, how to stand alone without feeling lonely, and how to trust your inner compass. Br. Living authentically requires bravery. You will disappoint people the moment you choose yourself, and that is not failure, that is maturity. When you stop caring what people think, you gain something priceless: clarity. You begin to live with compassion, not comparison. You start walking your path with dignity, knowing that your life is not an explanation, it is an expression. So remember this lesson. Well, people's opinions cannot define you unless you allow them to. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to become who you were meant to be. When you honor your truth, you inspire others silently. And that is the most powerful education of all. Living as an example, not as an apology. The first thing you must understand is how heavy other people's opinions can feel and why they feel that way. Because the weight is not always coming from them. It is coming from the importance you give them. From childhood, we are trained to look outward for approval. A smile from a teacher, a nod from a parent, acceptance from friends, and slowly this turns into a habit where our confidence depends on reactions instead of reality. When someone speaks about you, their words seem powerful, but the real power begins the moment you believe those words define you. Opinions are not facts, they are interpretations, shaped by personal experiences, fears, culture, jealousy, and sometimes ignorance, and yet we treat them like verdicts on our character. You must pause and ask yourself an honest question: why does what they think matter so much to me? Is it because I want to be loved, accepted, or understood? Or is it because I doubt myself? When self-belief is weak, opinions become loud, and when self-belief is strong, opinions become background noise. People often comment on things they have never lived through. They judge strength without knowing pain. They label resilience without understanding the cost, and they give advice from comfort to those who survived chaos. Their words carry weight only because you are carrying them with you, replaying them in your mind, letting them sit in your heart like permanent residents. There is a deep educational lesson here. Every opinion is filtered through someone else's reality, not yours. What they think of your choices, your pace, your struggles, or your dreams is based on what they know. And most of the time, they do not know the full story. You could explain yourself for a lifetime and still be misunderstood. So learning to stop explaining becomes a form of freedom. When you realize that even your silence will be judged, you stop wasting energy on trying to manage perceptions. Strong reactions rise when you feel judged, misunderstood, or underestimated. But those reactions are signals, not weaknesses. They are telling you where, why, have placed your worth. Instead of fighting every opinion, learn to observe it. Ask whether it adds value, truth, or growth, and if it does not, let it pass. Carrying unnecessary opinions is like carrying stones in your pockets while trying to walk forward, exhausting, painful, and completely avoidable. This is advice you must practice daily. Detach your identity from applause and criticism alike, because both are temporary and unreliable. The moment you understand that opinions cannot build you or break you unless you give them permission, you start reclaiming your power, your focus, your peace, and your direction, and you walk lighter, clearer, and stronger, knowing that your life is not a debate stage and you are not required to perform for approval, because the most important understanding is realizing that the loudest opinion in your life should be your own voice, guiding you forward without fear, without apology, without waiting for validation. Self-worth and social approval often look similar on the surface, but they are completely different at the core, and understanding this difference can change how you live, how you choose, and how you survive difficult moments. Social approval is loud. It comes with claps, compliments, likes, and temporary validation, while self-worth is quiet, rooted, and steady, even when no one is watching. The danger begins when you confuse applause with value, because the moment the applause stops, you begin to question your existence, your abilities, and your direction. You must learn this deeply. Approval is rented, self-worth is owned. When you build your confidence on people's reactions, you hand them control over your emotional stability. One day they praise you, you feel invincible. The next day they criticize you, and you feel shattered. That emotional roller coaster is not passion. It is dependence. Advice you need to hear clearly is this: if your worth rises and falls based on external validation, you will never feel enough, no matter how much you achieve. Social approval often demands performance. It asks you to shrink, to adjust, to stay silent, or to pretend just to fit into spaces that were never meant for your truth. Self-worth, on the other hand, allows you to breathe freely. It tells you that you are allowed to grow at your own pace, to heal loudly or quietly, to succeed differently, and to fail without losing dignity. When you know your worth, rejection hurts, but it does not destroy you. Criticism stings, but it does not define you. There will be moments when choosing self-worth means choosing discomfort. People will not always like the version of you that stops pleasing them. You may be called selfish, difficult, or changed, but what is really happening is that you are no longer available for exploitation through approval. This is where strength is built, not in being liked, but in being aligned with your values. Approval asks, will they accept me? Self-worth asks, am I being true to myself? Understand this educational truth. Society rewards conformity more than authenticity, but fulfillment only comes from authenticity. You can spend your entire life chasing validation and still feel empty, because approval feeds the ego, not the soul. Self-worth feeds your resilience. It teaches you to stand even when you stand alone. It teaches you that your pain does not make you weak, and your differences do not make you less. When reactions rise, when judgment feels heavy, remind yourself that people's approval is a mirror of their comfort, not a measurement of your value. Build a relationship with yourself so strong that no opinion can shake it. Speak to yourself with respect. Honor your boundaries. Acknowledge your efforts even when no one else does. Because the most powerful advice you can live by is choosing inner validation over external noise, choosing dignity over popularity, and choosing a worth that cannot be taken away by silence, criticism, or changing opinions. Pain, labels, and judgment are things you never invite into your life. Yet somehow they arrive unannounced and stay longer than expected. And the real lesson is not how to avoid them, but how to transform them. When pain enters your story, it tries to convince you that you are broken, that something is wrong with you, that you are less than others who seem untouched. But pain is not a punishment, it is information. It teaches you where you have been hurt, where you need healing, and where strength is being built quietly inside you. If you let pain define you, it will shrink you, but if you let it educate you, it will expand you in ways comfort never could. Labels are even more dangerous because they are often spoken casually but carried deeply. People label you based on a single moment, a mistake, a weakness, or a difference, and then they expect you to live inside that small box forever. They do not see your growth, your effort, your nights of struggle, or your silent resilience. Advice you must remember is this: a label is not an identity, it is someone else's limited conclusion. The moment you start introducing yourself through the labels others gave you, you stop allowing yourself to evolve, judgment will come no matter what you do. If you stay silent, you are judged. If you speak up, you are judged. If you rise, you are judged. If you fall, you are judged. So, the question is not how to escape judgment, but why you allow it to decide your direction. Most people judge from a distance, without context, without empathy, and without courage to face their own lives. Their judgment is often a reflection of what they fear, envy, or do not understand. Carrying their judgment is like carrying someone else's baggage on your shoulders while they walk freely. There is power in realizing that pain can become purpose when you stop hiding it. Every scar carries a lesson, every struggle carries wisdom, and every breakdown carries the seed of a breakthrough. When you stop apologizing for your pain and start owning your story, you take away people's power to use it against you. Education in life is not about pretending you were never hurt. It is about learning how to stand with dignity despite being hurt. Use your pain as fuel, not as proof of failure. Let labels remind you of how small-minded people can be, not how small you are. Let judgment sharpen your self-awareness instead of dulling your confidence. The strongest reactions often come when people see you rise from the very things they thought would destroy you. You do not need revenge, explanation, or validation. Your growth is the loudest response. So take this advice seriously. Stop carrying what was never meant to be yours. Transform pain into empathy, labels into motivation, and judgment into clarity. Walk forward. R&D, knowing that what tried to break you is often what qualifies you to lead, to inspire, and to stand unshaken. Because the moment you decide that your past will build you instead of bury you, you step into a power that no opinion, no label, and no judgment can ever take away from you as you continue becoming stronger, wiser, and more unapologetically yourself every single day without waiting for permission. Resilience is not something you are born with. It is something life forces you to learn when you are left with no other option but to stand up again. Self-acceptance is the foundation of that resilience, because you cannot keep rising if you are constantly fighting who you are. Many people think resilience means being strong all the time, smiling through pain, pretending nothing hurts, but real resilience begins the day you stop denying your reality and start accepting yourself completely with your scars, limitations, fears, and unfinished healing. You must understand this clearly. Rejecting yourself weakens you more than any failure ever could. When you are in constant conflict with your own identity, you waste energy trying to become acceptable instead of becoming whole. Self-acceptance is not giving up on growth, it is giving up on self-hatred. It means acknowledging where you are without shame, because shame drains strength, while acceptance builds it. The moment you stop apologizing for existing as you are, you feel lighter, and that lightness is what allows you to endure pressure without breaking. Life will test you repeatedly, and those tests often come with reminders of what you cannot do, what you lack, or what went wrong. Without self-acceptance, every test feels personal. Every setback feels like proof that you are not enough. With self-acceptance, setbacks become lessons instead of life sentences. You begin to separate your worth from your performance, and that separation is critical for resilience. You fail, you fall, you struggle, but you do not collapse inside because your value is not on trial. There will be days when your strength feels invisible even to you, when getting out of bed feels like a victory and silence feels heavier than noise. On those days, self-acceptance becomes an act of survival. It tells you that resting is not quitting, that asking for help is not weakness, and that healing does not follow a straight line. Resilient people are not those who never break, they are those who learn how to gather their broken pieces without shame. Advice you need to live by is this: stop comparing your resilience to someone else's highlight reel. Everyone fights battles you cannot see, and measuring your strength against others will only make you feel inadequate. Your journey is valid even if it looks different, slower, or messier. Resilience grows when you honor your pace instead of punishing yourself for not matching someone else's speed. Self-acceptance teaches you how to be gentle without becoming passive and strong without becoming hard. It allows you to say, "This is who I am today, and I am still worthy of respect, love, and effort." From that place, resilience becomes sustainable. You rise not out of anger or fear, but out of self-respect. You learn to bend without losing your shape and to face storms without losing your identity. Because when you accept yourself fully, you stop fighting your own existence and redirect all that energy into moving forward, rebuilding again and again with patience, courage, and a quiet, unshakable belief in your own ability to endure and grow through whatever comes next. Choosing growth over validation is one of the hardest decisions you will ever make, because validation feels good immediately, while growth often feels uncomfortable, lonely, and slow. Validation gives you instant relief, a nod of approval, a sense that you are doing something right, but growth asks you to walk through uncertainty without guarantees. It asks you to trust a process that no one may applaud at first. This is where many people stop, not because they lack potential, but because they crave reassurance more than progress. You must remind yourself that growth does not always look impressive in the beginning. It looks like confusion, discipline, failure, and repetition. While others are watching reactions, you are building character. While others are chasing likes, you are chasing alignment. Advice you need to hear clearly is this: if you wait for validation before you grow, you will remain stuck at the same level, performing for comfort instead of evolving toward your purpose. Validation often demands that you stay familiar. People are comfortable with the version of you they already know, even if that version is unhappy or limited. The moment you decide to grow, you disrupt expectations, and disruption makes people uncomfortable. They may question your choices, doubt your intentions, or withdraw their support. This is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that you are changing. Growth rarely receives applause from those who benefited from your silence or your stagnant. There will be moments when choosing growth feels like walking alone. The familiar crowd disappears, and the future has not yet welcomed you. In that space, your discipline becomes your companion. Growth teaches you to rely on commitment instead of motivation, on consistency instead of praise. You begin to understand that real progress happens in private, in the choices you make when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, and when quitting would be easier. Validation feeds the ego, but growth feeds the soul. Ego wants recognition, status, and proof, while growth wants depth, integrity, and sustainability. When you choose growth, you start asking better questions. Not how do I look, but how do I improve? Not do they approve, but am I learning? This shift in thinking changes everything. You stop performing and start becoming. Advice you must practice daily is to get comfortable being misunderstood for a while. People may not see your vision until the results appear, and some may never understand it at all. That does not make your journey less valid. Growth often requires faith before evidence. It requires patience before results. It requires courage before confidence. Choosing growth over validation means choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. It means being willing to fail publicly and learn privately. It means trusting that the work you are doing inside will eventually reflect outside. When you stop asking for permission to grow, you unlock a version of yourself that is not dependent on applause. You move forward with intention, guided by values rather than reactions, and you begin to build a life that feels right. Not one that merely looks right, because the moment growth becomes your priority, validation loses its power, and you continue rising with clarity, discipline, and quiet strength, regardless of who is watching or who is not. As you keep becoming more grounded, more capable, and more aligned with the person you are meant to be. Living authentically is not about being fearless. It is about choosing courage even when fear is present, even when your voice shakes and your hands are unsure. Courage is not loud confidence. It is the quiet decision to show up as you are without editing yourself to be more acceptable. When you live authentically, you stop wearing masks for different rooms and start carrying one honest version of yourself everywhere. And that honesty becomes your strength, not your weakness. You must understand that authenticity will cost you something. It may cost you approval, comfort, and relationships that were built on the version of you that stayed silent or small. But what it gives you in return is something far more valuable: inner peace and self-respect. Living to please everyone slowly erodes your identity, while living truthfully builds a solid core that cannot be shaken by changing opinions. Advice you need to absorb is this: it is better to be respected for who you are than loved for who you are pretending to be. Compassion is an essential part of authentic living. Choosing yourself does not mean becoming cold or careless toward others. It means understanding that everyone is fighting their own battles, and their reactions are shaped by their wounds, not your worth. When you live authentically, you stop taking things personally, and that allows you to respond with kindness without self-betrayal. You learn to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Courage shows up in small daily choices. It shows up when you speak your truth calmly, instead of staying silent to keep peace. It shows up when you set boundaries, even when your voice wants to apologize. It shows up when you allow yourself to be seen, imperfect and real, instead of polished and empty. These moments may feel uncomfortable, but they are educational moments, teaching you that discomfort is often a sign of growth, not danger. Living authentically also means accepting that not everyone will understand your journey, and that is okay. Understanding is not a requirement for validity. You are allowed to evolve beyond explanations. The more you explain yourself, the more you dilute your truth. Advice you must remember is this: your life is not a presentation, it is a practice. You are learning, adjusting, healing, and growing, and you do not need permission to do any of that. When you choose courage and compassion together, you become powerful in a quiet way. You do not need to prove anything, defend everything, or fight every opinion. Your actions speak clearly. Your consistency becomes your credibility. People may question you, but they cannot deny the peace that comes from someone who is aligned with themselves. Living authentically is a lifelong commitment. There will be days you fall back into old patterns, days you doubt yourself, days you fear rejection. And that does not mean you failed. It means you are human. Each time you return to your truth, you strengthen it. Each time you choose courage over comfort, you expand your capacity to live fully. And each time you lead with compassion, you remind yourself that authenticity is not about being perfect. It is about being real, present, and brave enough to live your life as your own without shrinking, apologizing, or abandoning yourself, while moving forward with clarity, dignity, and an unshakable sense of who you are becoming.